ELI5. What skills does a horse rider need other than holding on to the horse? I mean, there are professional jockeys and show riders who must be doing something at a very high level. But I honestly don't understand if I'm riding a horse that's jumping over a fence, isn't that all the horse? And I just need to not fall off? I mean, it's all kinda in the ballpark of holding on to the horse, but it's rather more involved in that. In the same way that tennis is more than just hitting a ball. Horse riding requires, among other things, good self-control over one's own balance and confidence, as well as the ability to control and clearly signal to the horse what you want, as well as anticipate its movements. Quote someone I know who's an experienced rider, 99% of horse riding is being in sync with your horse. Jumping a fence means you have to move in time with your horse. It also requires a great deal of core strength and balance. It's supposed to look effortless, but actually holding on is in many ways more difficult than it appears. It takes some skill, especially considering that horses will respond signals as subtle as shifts in your body weight. You have to be very aware of how you're sitting and moving. Not to mention, you're not just sitting on top of a horse, you're sitting around the horse. You're holding on with your legs, which, if you're not used to it, will definitely make you very sore after a while. Will a show horse let anyone who isn't their usual jockey get on the horse's back? Depends on the horse. Some are happy to accommodate other riders, and some are picky, while others can be grumpy, even verging on nasty. Horses' ponies are intelligent. They have their own personality and will demonstrate their willingness by making it difficult to even mount. They will turn in circles to stop you getting a good hop up. The part of just need not to fall off alone is extremely difficult. Maintaining balance on a moving horse is crucial for effective riding, and also riding in a way that does not harm the horse. Riders need to develop a strong sense of balance and coordination to stay centered in the saddle, especially when the horse is in motion or executing complex maneuvers. You have to learn how to communicate with your horse. A horse doesn't just simply do what it learned, but you have to actually understand and communicate what you want with your horse. You need emotional control. You should not panic if your horse breaks out with you on its back, but take immediate action to regain control. And the amount of stamina and strength you need, because you actually have to mimic the horse's up and down, called posting, movement, to reduce strain of the horse's back and allow it more freedom in their range of motion. Imagine having a backpack loosely on your back, and you sprint. Your backpack will jerk up and down, hurting you and bringing you out of the smooth motion of running. Now, fasten the backpack to your back very tight. This way it works with your flow of motion and isn't in your way. Professional riders in the Olympics or the Rolex Grand Slam are jumping over 1.70-meter fences. That's like 5'6". Relative to the horse, it's all the way up to his shoulder. Imagine trying to stay balanced on the back of a horse while making him jump over fences that are as tall as he is, and making him do it as fast as possible because you're competing for speed, but also he has to clear the fences and not hit the rails, or else you take penalties. From someone who learned to ride a horse, not falling off is a crucial first lesson, to be sure. But then you have to learn to communicate with an animal that is fairly intelligent, has a mind of its own, and if it disagrees with you, it will demonstrate that in the swiftest way available. So it's not just learning to fall off, but developing a relationship and understanding with the animal as well. Plus, it can be tiring being up on a horse. There's a lot of core muscle strength that is required to move with the animal and for both you and the horse to be comfortable. Explain like I'm 5. How are we able to calculate how far we're able to throw things extremely precisely? For example, if you're standing 20 feet away from me and you tell me to throw you a ball, how is my arm able to generate almost the exact amount of power required to throw the ball 20 feet? How and where does this calculation happen? This is what I came here to say. We've evolved that skill over time. If you want to eat, you'll have to hit that moving animal with a spear or rock, whatever. That's why I can tell my buddy to go deep and hit him on the run. That skill is amazing now that I'm thinking about it instead of just doing it. It's unlikely that our brains are doing any specific math when deciding how to move our bodies to create the throw we want. It's more likely that is putting together its best guess based upon experience, making and observing hundreds or thousands of previous throws. Even if you don't consciously remember any of the details of those throws, your brain-body does, in some sense, and can do a pretty good job of replicating those movements again, as well as slightly alter them depending on the requirements of this specific throw. True. In addition, biologists have observed that our ability to throw stuff precisely has also played a crucial role in the evolution as Homo sapiens. Think of things like hunting, fighting, games, shows of strength and shooting. The better this ability, the higher chance of survival and reproduction. Our ability to aim and develop this skill as a young kid is significantly better than any other animal, including monkeys, indicating that this is even part of our DNA. It often isn't. Most people's sense of throwing range is cultivated by hundreds, if not thousands, of repetitions. Muscle memory is a deeper question. Mechanically, force, arm angle, release timing, spin, and grip can all impact throwing. In a general sense, since F equals mass ton acceleration, if two things have similar mass, they can be thrown similarly. This may account for throwing regular objects like keys, your arm and feel the weight of an object, and reference it versus other things you've thrown before. Explain like I'm 5. In sci-fi, with spinning ships to make gravity, how does someone drop something and it lands at their feet? This fogs my brain every time I watch one of these shows, and I feel like maybe I'm completely misunderstanding the physics. You're in a ring ship. The ring spins. You're standing on the inside of the ring, so it takes you along with it, and the force created pins you to the floor, like a carnival ride. Okay, but that's not gravity, and it's not down. Gravity is acceleration. So what keeps the acceleration going in the ring ship is that you are constantly changing your angular momentum, because you're going in a circle. Okay, so when you let go of something, like a cup or a book, wouldn't it go flying towards the floor at an angle? If you jumped, wouldn't you look like you rotated a little before you hit the ground? Because you'd, for that moment, be continuing the momentum of your angular velocity from when you left the floor, and the room would continue on its new, ever-turning course? Wouldn't it kind of feel like walking uphill one direction and downhill the other, with things sliding about as the room changed direction constantly? Am I just completely missing this idea and creating a cause and effect that doesn't exist? You're right. It's called the Coriolis effect. Watch The Expanse. There's a scene where someone pours a drink into a cup and the stream turns to the side. Oh, thank God, I'm not just stupid. They're also right about the fact that you should watch The Expanse. Don't forget about the books. No, your intuition is correct. In a rotating ring space station, a dropped object will not land at your feet. The object retains the lateral velocity it had at the radius you were holding it, which is less than the lateral velocity of the floor. So while it is falling, the floor and your feet move sideways with respect to its path. To your eyes, the falling path would be curved to the side. Your next to last paragraph is also correct, in principle, but in practice, I think the effect would be negligible. Your walking speed is much less than the speed of the ring, so the difference between walking one way versus the other would be tiny. I have this Tom Scott video saved for just such a question. You are correct in your suspicions. A rotating ring can simulate gravity, but it will never be perfect. There would be weird artifacts like you describe. And unless you're acclimated to the shifting momentum, you'd be falling over a lot. The lab that he was recording from tests to see whether we really can get used to an environment like that. The physics inside that chamber gets trippy. Explain like I'm 5. Were stocks like Apple or Nvidia previously regarded as penny stocks when they were priced so low 20 plus years ago? Are there stocks available now that are priced low that could increase the same amount? They weren't priced that low. You're looking at spilt-adjusted prices. Those weren't the actual trading prices. Apple was still trading in the toilet in the 90s, something like $10 per share, which was a huge fall. I knew someone who got $1,000 in Apple share as like a high school gift in the 90s. And I remember getting bug-eyed and asking him if he knew what Apple was trading for now. That was back in the aughts. I hope he held on to it to the current day, because he would literally be an AAPL millionaire now. Are there stocks that low that could increase the same amount? Absolutely. That doesn't mean it's a good idea to try and find them. If people knew which stocks would blow up like that, then they wouldn't be so cheap. Just sign up for my course for $499, and I'll teach you how to pick which stocks will explode in the next decade. Because 20 years ago, Apple was swirling the toilet. Everyone laughed when Apple held a giant press release for the iPod because the world was already filled with MP3 players. Apple changed the game by having very catchy commercials and actually providing you an avenue to legally obtain music through iTunes. Apple was a joke in the 90s. Are there stocks available now that are priced low that could increase the same amount? If anyone knew the answer to this question, they'd have more money than Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates combined. Yeah, no, Apple wasn't anywhere near where it was today, but it was never a penny stock. Apple changed the game by having very catchy commercials and actually providing you an avenue to legally obtain music through iTunes. The iPod was a success because of how easy it was to use compared to the market devices at the time. The iTunes Store didn't debut until 2 years after the iPod did. The existing success of the iPod is what gave Apple leverage to get the deals for legally downloaded music it could. 20 years ago, not penny stocks, just cheap. For part 2, literally thousands, go find some pink sheets and hope you pick the 1% that are going to be a winner. Well, that's another episode of Explain Like I'm 5 in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.